We open up with a scene of a little girl crying and a nun consoling her, with the narration that our children are good kids, they are angelic unlike any other children in the world. And that not anyone can just become their parents, because these children are for special parents, as a fat guy comes along telling the one of the kids that he is going to be his dad from now on. These children have also received special education, a very special education in fact. Suddenly as the kid and his parent leaves, the nun's expression changes, telling all the kids that it's enough now. And that it's training time, as all the kids also get serious and takes out a bunch of weapons. She firstly tells Ellie to not let her nose run when she is pretending to cry, since parents may hate children who appear slow-witted or dense. And just like it, she blows her snot and says that she would keep that in mind. The pastor is watching them from a window, saying that this education is a gift for them. These children were trained as weapons the moment they started walking. They are thoroughly raised under special disciplinarians. And because of that, each one of them is extremely expensive to nurture. Now someone asks, what are these children used for? And the pastor replies, these children are like supercomputers, how are they used is determined by the buyers. The parent who just bought the kid shows him a photo of the target and tells him to memorize his face, and due to the children's being dangerous, safety measures were taken. Certain rules were imprinted on them from a young age, that they absolutely cannot disobey, which are called 3 absolute principles. These 3 principles are designed to ensure that the buyer can control the children. It's crucial to remember them. Inside the car, the kid tells his supposed parent that there is a car following them, and the guy replies, asking, what did he say? The guy gets angry and tells him to simply shut up and memorize the face instead, and the kid replies with a very static and robotic tone, that, yes, order received, father. The first principle is that the parent's words are absolute, as suddenly the car that was following them collides with their car. Their car rolls over, crashing, and both the kid and his parents are heavily injured. The second principle is that they cannot use their power without the parent's permission. And as 2 guys come around, looking for the parent, and the kid starts to cry and asks them to help his dad since he is not breathing. They both let their guard down as they did not expected a kid to be with him. They wonder if they should just get rid of him as well, but decides to simply dump him somewhere and leave, since he is just a kid. And when the guy starts to check up on the kid, we get to know about the last and the most important principle. Suddenly, while in the middle of speaking, the kid stabs the guy right in his throat and takes his firearm from him. As the last principle states that in case the parent's safety is threatened, the kid will ignore the above 2 rules and resolve the situation. Back to the pastor, he calls them very good children, and asks the unknown person if he would like to make a purchase. The unknown person picks out one. The pastor replies that this child unfortunately will not be possible, calling him the only blemish on their organization. Though his abilities were the highest among all of their children, he was a true elite, and the pastor was also very fond of him personally as well. But they lost him, more like he disappeared. They have tried tracking him down, but without his parent, he cannot use his power, so he would not draw any attention. And by now, he might be living as an ordinary child somewhere. Or perhaps might even be dead, as we see someone punches a black-haired glasses guy. The glasses guy's name is Haunyo, as the person who hit him says that the last hit really landed, isn't it, as Haunyo grunts in pain and cursing. Hearing him curse, the guy intimidates him and asks, what did he just say? And Haunyo replies that he said 15, the punch he threw was 15 point worth. The other bullies with the guy comments that it's quite generous, and that Joseph's punch would indeed be worth 15 points as they high-five each other. And just as Joseph is about to kick him to rate it, a blonde guy comes running, wanting to be the next person to try, and he lightly taps Haunyo and asks him how much points was it worth. Joseph starts to get pissed. Haunyo curses at the blondie and he mishears it as 52, but Haunyo repeats the curse word again at him. The others clears that Haunyo was indeed cursing at him, and his damage meter is really strict, but Blondie, whose name is Park Shion, replies that Haunyo must be malfunctioning. While looking at Park Shion, Haunyo is annoyed at him and thinks that he could easily beat him up. Joseph asks him on what is he doing and slaps Shion, and tells him to not get cocky as he was already hitting Haunyo before him, asking if he understood what he is trying to say. Shion clenches his fist tightly and smiles, saying that it was a solid hit and rates it as 150,000 points, and compliments Joseph on his physique as someone who has studied in abroad, due to which his physique being completely different. He goes on about praising Joseph, asking how much he benches and all. Hearing all that, he leaves them both alone while calling him an idiot and telling him to buy some cigarettes for him, which Shion happily agrees to do so. Shion claims that he would definitely get him next time, and calls him quite cool when he uses his American accent. While looking at him, Haeunyo again thinks that he could easily beat him up. Shion chokes Haeunyo, asking if he really said 52 instead of cursing, which annoys Haeunyo. Shion tells him to come with him, as he is really dead for real today. Suddenly we see them both sitting and eating food, with Shion telling him to buy him tteokbokki as he is running out of money due to running errands for Joseph, which Haeunyo agrees with, while thinking of him as a rascal. Looking at Haeunyo's expression, Shion tells him that he gives the money to Joseph, but not to him, which is not fine, and Haeunyo replies that it's not that, it's just about this place. Shion replies that it's indeed quite fascinating that the shop's name is same as Haeunyo's name. But Haeunyo clarifies that it's his mom's shop, and his mom happily tells Shion to eat all he wants and gives him some fish cakes as well, as he is Haeunyo's friend. Shion realizes that it's due to him that his mom has named it like that, while Haeunyo is troubled as he managed to hide the shop until now, but out of all the people who could have known about it, he was caught by someone like him. Shion then says he cannot act like a stranger since it's Haeunyo's mom's shop, hearing which, Haeunyo wonders on what is he planning to do and prepares a pen to attack him with. And just as he calls out to Haeunyo's mom, we see Haeunyo attacks him, but Shion is actually bowing down and apologizing for not introducing himself earlier, and then introduces himself as Haeunyo's friend. Haeunyo is surprised upon seeing it, as he talks to his mom about how the shop's name is quite unique, and his mom replies that Haeunyo always told her to not make it like that, which prompts Shion to tell Haeunyo it's not good to say that since she works so hard for him. Haeunyo starts to think that there is no telling what Shion would do if he stays here, as such he tries to push him away by saying that they need to go as more of their friends are waiting for them. And upon hearing that, Haeunyo's mom packs some food for the rest of his supposed friends as well. Haeunyo tells her to not to, but Shion gets excited and asks if it's really for free, and she replies that it is since she does not need to sell any more today. As Shion is taking all the food from her hands, Haeunyo gets worried and requests to her mom to not do it inside himself. But his mom tells Shion that all of Haeunyo's friends are like her own children as well, prompting Shion to reply that indeed they are. All the while Haeunyo is breaking up inside, and saying that he is not what she thinks he is. Haeunyo grabs Shion and requests him to do a favor and not tell Joseph or any other guys about this shop. He tells him to not worry as he would handle it and leaves, while his mom tells Shion to bring his other friends along next time, and he replies that he will, which makes Haeunyo incredibly worried. As Shion leaves, Haeunyo asks his mom on why she is doing such a thing, and he shouts at her to not act like she knows him, while wondering to himself that he is such a stupid person, and questions on why is he yelling at his mom. His mom tells him that she was simply happy to see his friends for the first time and apologizes to Haeunyo, and he frustratingly thinks on why is she apologizing. She continues on that she just wanted him to get along with his friends, and apologizes again to him, while Haeunyo is irritated as he clenches his fist and thinks, please stop apologizing, if you keep doing that I will. Suddenly the scene shifts and we see a napkin is dropped inside the tteokbokki and someone is taking it out, asking what the hell is this about to Haeunyo. We see it's Joseph and other bullies who tells Haeunyo he knew his mom sells this, but starts to complain and bully him on why is there a rag in his food. He shoves it on his face and asks him for a refund since he cannot eat like this, or he could go to his mom and tell her that he is Haeunyo's friend. Haeunyo thinks to himself about how he begged to Shion to not tell anyone about this, and yet he did this. He then asks Joseph if he really thinks he and him are friends. Joseph asks if he is mad for real about this and tells him that they are friends, it was just a joke between them. He dumps it all over Haeunyo and tells him that he does not like it and he would go and tell his mom about everything. Hearing which, Haeunyo gets pissed and clenches a pen in his hand, which Joseph notices. And he suddenly attacks Joseph with it, targeting his neck. But he remembers his mom and her words on he should get along with his friends and her apology. And such he stops right before his neck, as Joseph is also a bit taken back by it. Haeunyo is still frustrated and Joseph asks him what the hell is this about. He gets really up close to him and with an angry face, asks him again on what the hell is this about. Shion enters the classroom, asking Haeunyo on what is he doing, but stops in the middle and notices the class's atmosphere. He sees some cops and teachers are standing beside a broken window and lots of blood along with a broken pair of glasses. That day, Haeunyo was continuously beaten for 15 minutes. He passed out several times and regained consciousness due to the pain several times, and each time he apologized and begged, saying that he was sorry, but the violence did not stop, nor did anyone intervene to stop it. And in the end, Haeunyo himself was the one to put an end to the violence. Back to Joseph and his friends, he tells them that they should say they were the one who pushed Haeunyo while playing around. They reply that they weren't the one who did anything, but Joseph tells them to not be like that and not worry, as he has asked his dad, and there is a good law in Korea, Juvenile Act. Since he was held back by a year, it does not apply to him. That is why he is asking them to help out, and he instructs them all to turn themselves in for pushing Haeunyo. The guy replies, but they could still get sued for all the damages, and Joseph tells them to not worry about that, as there is a way around that as well, as they have not been sued as of yet. And with a sinister smile on his face, he says as long as there is no one to file a lawsuit, there won't be any problem. And that even if they get caught, they would be protected under Juvenile Act, but they still hesitates. As such, Joseph offers them 10 million won per person as an amount. As he asks them if they know where Haeunyo lives, and we see his mom is crying and broken about her son in the apartment all alone. Fast forward at night, and they are climbing up to his apartment, as the guy informs Joseph that it's on the 5th floor. They call the elevator, but Joseph notes and wonders why is it not coming down from the 5th floor, and decides to use the stairs instead. As they are about to reach the 5th floor, Joseph notices something. We see a fire extinguisher is stuck on the elevator's door, seemingly on purpose. Joseph wonders what the hell is this, and some guy in a hoodie asks him why is he so late. And we see it Shion, who tells Joseph that he got tired of waiting for him. Joseph asks him on what is he doing here, and one of them asks Shion to join them as well, but Shion stands up and tells them he would keep it all short and asks on how did they got to know about Haeunyo's snack shop. As that place was his secret spot, Joseph smiles and tells him that he was curious on why Shion did not brought him cigarettes and was eating instead with the neighborhood kids. And he found out that their dear Haeunyo was arguing with his mom in front of the shop, and Shion says that it was due to him, and then he asks Joseph a second question and tells him to answer it carefully. He asks Joseph on what is he doing here, and he replies if it isn't obvious. They are here to see Haeunyo's mom, who is sleeping carefree after filing a lawsuit against them. And that it's perfect timing as well, since he has been annoyed with him as well, and asks Shion if he really thought he would not notice that he was simply pretending to bully Haeunyo and was actually helping him instead. He starts to get pissed while saying that he must have taken him for a fool all this time. Shion tells him that is enough for him and starts to pick up the fire extinguisher, and Joseph comes running towards him to attack him. But Shion aims it towards Joseph while thanking him to confirm his suspicion, though he was expecting it already, but he needed to be sure. We see Shion use it and create a large smoke screen in front of them, and Joseph orders his men to go and get him. Suddenly Shion throws the fire extinguisher towards one of the guy, which hits him right on his face. He falls right on Joseph, which blocks him from going towards Shion. While Shion is taking care of other guys, but Joseph stands up again and rushes towards him. He attacks him with iron pipe, but Shion blocks it and slips right under it and attacks Joseph's foot with the fire extinguisher. Joseph screams in pain and shouts that his feet is broken. Shion starts to walk towards him while saying that it's metatarsal bones above his cuneiform bone that is broken, and he won't be able to walk now, while Joseph asks him on why is he doing this to him. Shion says, the 3 principles imprinted on the children, first is the parents' words are absolute, while he punches Joseph right on his face. And the second principle, without parents' permission he cannot use his power, as everyone is confused and wonders just what the hell is Shion talking about. He grabs Joseph by the collar, and Joseph starts to apologize and begs for mercy, asking him to spare him. While Shion recites the last principle, in the event of the parent's safety is threatened, ignore the above 2 principles and to resolve the situation. And he remembers what Haeunyo's mom said about Haeunyo's friends being like his own children. Hence Shion tells him that it means they all threatened his mom, and he can crush them now due to it. As we see Shion stomping right on Joseph's head, finishing him off. We switch scenes to the orphanage as the nun comes in telling the director that there is a call from Korea. The director asks who is it, and she replies that it's from the White Tiger workforce. Knowing it's them, he asks her to hand the phone over to him. As he takes over the phone and says hello, the White Tiger force informs him that they think they have found him, the lost legend of the dead mansion. Codename Sean is in Korea, and we are fully introduced to our MC, Dead Mansion Special Training Multipurpose Weapon, Project Good Child, codename Sean. Out of all the children that were made by the Dead Mansion, he was the best work. Working undercover, weapon skills, and assassination to top it all off, it was a product that was on a completely different level in all senses. He was supposed to be sent to a Yakuza family, who was one of their top clients, but there was a mistake in delivery, and instead of Japan, he was sent to Korea. The director starts praying and says that it has been 5 years since then. He gave up thinking that he would have died. But he thanks God for returning him to them. And as such he orders the nun to go and find him, no matter what she have to do. We learn that her name is Rachel, and she complies with the order and says that she will start with the collection process right away. And that if something were to go wrong, she would just use force, and we are fully introduced to her dead mansion trainer, Rachel, responsibility and specialty, currently unknown. But the director asks her what is she saying, and orders her to bring him back without hurting him too much, and also to leave the gun since it's going overboard. Now we switch scenes to Joseph's father, who is bowing down and apologizing for Joseph's behavior to Hyunyo's mom and that he would pay for Hyunyo's treatment cost, his mental care and whatever else she requests as well. But she replies that nothing will change even if he does this, since it is not something that would end with a simple apology, which leaves Joseph's father speechless. Suddenly his mood changes knowing that it did not work, and he starts to get going with Hyunyo's mom also being surprised by his behavior. He tells her that he believes efficiency is the most important thing in everything they do, but seeing how she has no intention of negotiations, he has no reason to keep wasting his time. And that he has plenty of other options he can expend, it is what he specializes in. While in the car, he complains that his nose is all stingy from the dust and stench and wonders how could she run her business in such place, and orders his men to tear down the place and raise a building there, and asks about the condition of that kid, and if they took care of it. His men replies that Assistant O is taking care of it, he should be done by now as well. At the hospital, we see Joseph and he is complaining on how he knew that something was off about Shion. And he also tells his father that he was saying something about the 3 principles that were engraved in him, and his father is confused and asks if it's something that is trending among kids these days. Joseph replies that he does not know either, and after that but his father stops him in the middle and tells him to hold on. He asks the nurse if she could leave them alone for a bit, it would really quick. As the nurse leaves and Joseph starts talking again, but his father slaps him. He asks if he knows what is he mad about. It's not about bullying kids, which leads them to jump from the classroom. He does not care about that, but if he went to his house to finish things off, he should have handled it cleanly. The basics of work is to not do the same thing twice, he should take this chance to learn properly. As this is how adults handle things, and we see Shion getting kicked on his chest. The guy tells his men to get Shion up again, and Shion asks on what are they doing, but the guy slaps him. And we hear the sounds of him getting beaten up, with the guy asking Shion that it is not going as he planned, isn't it? Like the time he beat up for kids of his own age, but it does not work the same way on adults. As young Master Joseph also became half-crippled due to him. So he should also repent for it, as they grab his arm and the guy stomps on it. Shion screams in pain while the guy tells him that this is how adult deals with things. Fast forward and it gets evening and Shion mocks about how he said about adults dealing with things. And puts his arm right back while calling the guy dumbass for not knowing the difference between a broken bone and dislocated joint, and something like this does not even come close to Rachel's punishments. He starts to think that things have gotten troublesome. He also cannot use his full strength without commands due to the 3 principles, but considers all of it enough to calm things down. While he is leaving and thinking to get a new identity, suddenly he is noticed by Hyunyo's mom and she asks him on why does he look like that. He greets her as well, thinking that it's getting even more troublesome. Fast forward and he is at her shop, speechless and not eating his food either. She tells him that he does not need to be polite and that she is fine, so eat a lot. Shion's eye widens as he takes the command to eat a lot and starts eating widely, while confirming that he indeed thinks of Hyunyo's mother as his own parent as well. Seeing him eat like it, she tells him that he would choke and tells him to drink some water, which again he complies with. He thanks her for the food, and his mom chuckles saying that it makes her happy to see him like this. Shion asks if Hyunyo is doing better, and she puts up a brave front and says that he is doing fine of course. The doctor said the surgery went fine and now they just need to keep an eye on him, and says that Hyunyo is tough, hence even if he is going through some hard times right now, he would overcome it. She starts to tremble and cry, saying that while she cannot do anything for him despite him being in such a state, and claims that she wanted to destroy everything, like the pain in her heart, that guy's father, she wanted to tear him to pieces. Shion hears that, and she looks back and apologizes to him for saying stuff like this. But she finds him gone already and gets confused on where he went. Now at the Kwon's company, Kwon was giving the quarterly report and tells everyone that they have worked quite hard, and that their Byungwoo construction company is here all due to their efforts. As he is giving his speech, one of the waiter asks the fat guy if he would like some wine. And just as he replies to pour him some, he gets smashed with it on his face. And we see it's Shion, who makes fun of him by telling him to have a full bottle instead. The guard notices him and attacks, but Shion counters with the glasses which are in his hand. The guard compliments Shion for being good at running but suddenly notices the glasses which are blocking his fist, though it's already too late as Shion lands a kick right on his face. Shion then picks up few forks and throws them right at the oncoming guards, taking all of them with a strike to their head. The other guy notices the sound and shouts to turn out the lights. They wonder who did it, and one of them replies that it's the blonde kid, and everyone starts to search for him as he couldn't have gone too far. And upon hearing about him, Kwon realizes something as well. We see Shion hiding under one of the table with a knife in his hand as he again goes on to recite the principles. Seeing his chance, he rushes out from under the table and slashes many of the guard before they could react. He also remembers her words, and due to the first principle, he tries to complete her order of tearing them apart. Some guard notices him and tries to attack, but Shion pulls out the tablecloth and throws it at them. And with that cover-up, immediately jumps on them with the table. Suddenly he gets attacked with a throwing knife, which he dodges, making the knife instead land on one of the guard. We see it's Mr. O, who finds it disappointing that Shion was able to dodge the attack and recalls that he thought he had broken his arm. And right when he is trash-talking, Shion reaches him and grabs his hand while smacking him on his face. Shion then grabs his arm while telling him to watch carefully on how to actually break an arm, as he completely twists his arm and he shouts in pain. Suddenly he gets hit by a bullet, though it only leaves a scratch, barely missing him. We see it's Kwon who says that it's harder to aim than he thought. He walks downstairs while pointing the gun at Shion, as Shion says that it would be pretty hard to aim from that distance without being a pro, which prompts Kwon to ask Shion if he is a pro since he seems quite knowledgeable. And that he has heard that kids in Korea do a crew thing or something like that, and asks if he is part of something like that, to which he replies that he does not know about that, though if he were to say what he is affiliated with, it would be Hyunyo's snack shop. Knowing that it's that shop, Kwon mocks it by calling it smelly and foul and asks if that woman told him to kill him or something. Shion replies, no, she told him to tear him to pieces. As Kwon is confused, Shion is quickly able to disarm him and also punch him right on his face. Kwon grabs onto Shion and asks if it's their revenge, but Shion replies that it's not something like that. He then punches Kwon right on his face and smacks him down on the ground. And he then recites the first principle that a parent's command is absolute and starts to walk away. Kwon says that efficiency is the most important when working, and he knew that he should have taken care of it properly back then. And that next time he would take care of all of them, and Shion asks on why is he spouting such useless things. He then shoots the chandelier while reciting the third principle that when there is a possibility of parents being in danger, break through the current situation. As he leaves saying, like father, like son, and they are both very alike. Now we switch scene as a nurse is asking Joseph if he feels uncomfortable somewhere while he replies if she cannot see it herself. She tells him that she heard the school violence is really scary these days, and this is the first time someone has been this hurt, and guesses that the guy who hit him was really good at fighting, though still calls it too much. And Joseph replies that yeah, it did hurt a lot. The nurse then asks on what was he and his father talking about, the principles or something, as they mentioned something like that. Joseph notices the medicine and says that its color looks funny, but the nurse tells him to not worry about it and that he would not die if she only uses half of it. As she removes her fake wig, we see it's Rachel, and we finally get a full overview of her specialty, which is disguise and undercover, and also interrogation and torture. Fast forward, and we see Rachel contact the director to tell him about a problem, and informs him that codename Sean has exerted force. The director gets a bit taken back by it and asks what does she mean by that, and she replies that they tracked him and arrived at the scene, but he was already gone. And there are seriously injured adult men on the scene. Even if it was him, it should have been impossible due to the 3 principles. The director gets a bit concerned upon hearing that, as it does not make sense and it has not happened in the history of Dead Mansion. There is a reason it's called 3 absolute principles. He tells Rachel that if he is breaking the 3 principles then something must be wrong. and gets concerned that the weapons they sold at the dead mansion might ignore their command and aim for them instead, and he tells her that they are changing the objective right now. He orders her to investigate Sean first instead, and observe him closely and find out if he really used force without permission, to which she replies, understood. And if she needs any support in Korea, she can ask the White Tiger workforce, as we see two guys also comes, and they wonders if it was really done by a middle schooler, and sorting it out is going to make his hair fall off. She informs the director that she found Smoker and Barcode Head and will start observing when she leaves the scene, and she walks past by both of them, completely ignoring them while they stare at her. Looking at her clothes, Smoker wonders if kids these days call them clothes, and Barcode Head replies that she is Russian, and they are quite open-minded, and they talk about how their manager is always out at time like this and wonders if he's still in menopause, and the other one replies that he has been given other work to do by their boss. Now next day at school, Rachel has already finished her preliminary investigation on Sean. She found that he attends the middle school here, and his parents are abroad on paper, though they are unidentified fake parents, as she wonders what is he doing here, and that she will dig it all up. She gets excited upon thinking on how did their Sean grew up to be. She starts to remember that he was the best among all the children she taught, he wielded every weapon she taught him perfectly, and she cannot believe that he grew independent of a mission as she arrives at Sean's classroom. She observes him talking to his friends and telling his classmates that it was all Joseph's doing and mocks him by imitating his expression. She gets surprised and wonders if that vulgar child is really Sean, and as he is talking to his friend, someone behind him tells him that he is so noisy, and tells him to just let him sleep, while cursing at him, and hearing which, Sean gets upright and looks him straight in the eye, and Rachel wonders if it's a hierarchical fight, as it used to be done a lot in Dead Mansion, a fight to establish strength, and she calls it adorable on how they even tried to fight her. And that every time they fought, Sean always came out as the strongest, but she gets surprised upon seeing him on the ground and wonders in shock just what happened. She is left speechless upon seeing him get beat up like this as he apologizes to that fat guy. She then goes in and starts to teach his class, since she is acting like a teacher in school after all, and assumes that he cannot carelessly show off his strength here as he is trying to hide his identity. And she starts to wonder if he is still under the influence of the three principles, and plans to observe him for a bit more. Noticing his focused gaze, she says she knew it that he was different. At Dead Mansion, good kids were not just strongs but also intelligent, and he was always the most outstanding child. And even if he might be able to hide his power, but he cannot hide his brilliance, as she goes on to look over while thinking how troublesome it is, and that he should at least try to conceal this much if he is trying to hide his identity, and plans to teach him again once she gets a chance. Though Sean is simply drawing stick figures on his notebook, seeing which she gets taken back. And such she hits him hard, asking him what is he doing while in class. Now at the washroom, we see her breaking down, while denying that there is no way he became such a stupid child. Though his face certainly matches, she cannot find a single shroud of elegance in him. She wonders if all of this is coincidence, but thinks there is no way that such an immature kid is Sean. Rachel then does a change of plan and thinks that it's no longer simply a matter of protecting the three principles. She once again changes her disguise and plans to find out if he really is codename Sean. We see her following Sean as Sean thinks that teacher usually does not hit that hard, and Rachel behind him plans to kill him if he turns out to be someone else. Suddenly someone calls Sean from behind, and it's Hyunyo's mother, who asks him where is he heading and that he met her just at the right time as well. She asks Sean if he would help her carry these stuff, which he immediately agrees with, and she thanks him and also invites him to eat some food at her place. He thanks her for the offer, and Rachel wonders who that old lady is. Back at the shop we see Sean eating it like no tomorrow. Seeing which Hyunyo's mom tells him to eat slowly. Seeing her, Rachel realizes that she has heard about her from Joseph and that he put her son into a coma. Though she starts to get annoyed while wondering what kind of relationship she has with Sean, and as she looks at him up close she notices that he is way too vulgar, and that the closer she gets, the more vulgar he looks. And after looking at all of it, she assumes that he cannot be Sean, and wonders how could he look so vulgar while having the same face as him. Suddenly she lets out a loud grunt from the food being too spicy and quickly asks for water. Hyunyo's mom gives her water to drink while remarking that she cannot handle spice very well, though Rachel thinks that it's not simply spice, it's more like torture, and wonders how can anyone eat stuff like this, and that this much spice should be considered poison or even assassination, and Sean tells her to eat more slowly while calling her clumsy, hearing which Rachel gets pissed thinking that she would surely kill him for this. She also remembers that Shion cannot handle spicy food as he used to hold her hands while eating it and that he must be having a rough time in Korea as well due to it, but she suddenly notices something. She watches him closely and Hyunyo's mother asks him if it's good and he replies that it's delicious. She wonders if he is holding back, while thinking that he should not just eat it if it's like that, and wonders on why is he forcing himself, and suddenly she realizes it. She remembers all the time he was following and accepting whatever Hyunyo's mom told him, and comes to the conclusion that he is listening to everything this old woman tells him to, like obeying her commands. She also remembers about that scene and realizes that it's indeed impossible to do all that without command, and comes to the possibility that perhaps someone ordered Sean to destroy Byungwoo construction. And the only person who could have done that is this old woman. As according to the first principle of the dead mansion, parents' words are absolute, and she deducts that he recognizes the old woman as a parent and listens to her orders, and with that assumptions everything fits perfectly. She then asks for the bill, and as soon as Hyunyo's mom turns around, Rachel picks up a stick, thinking there is one way to verify her assumptions. She aims and throws the chopstick towards her, but it gets blocked by a fork. And Sean then jumps over the counter and grabs Rachel, who is smiling excitedly upon confirming her assumptions. The stool falls over and Hyunyo's mom looks back and sees both Shion and Rachel missing and gets confused. Now in some alleyway, Rachel attacks Shion while reciting the third principle of the dead mansion. But Shion dodges and tries to counter, which she also blocks. Shion tells her to get it over with and asks if she is planning to follow him around all day. We see Shion recognizes her as none other than Rachel and is also pissed. While Rachel is excited upon realizing that it's really Sean and tells him that it's been a while. Rachel calls it quite strange and asks him why is he following an old woman from a snack shop like she's his parent, as there is no way such a shabby shop owner could be a client of Dead Mansion, and Shion replies that he doesn't know what she's talking about. Shion realizes that he did cause a big fuss, but he did not expect it to be found out so quickly, and Rachel suddenly ducks, grabs Shion and throws him on the ground. She then sits on top of him and tells him to come back with her, as there are many clients waiting for him. And upon hearing that, he starts to remember his time in the Dead Mansion. But suddenly another memory also surfaces, a woman with her face riddled with blood, as she gives Shion his name while gently caressing his face. Shion starts to wonder what was it, and Rachel gets confused and asks him on what did he just say. Shion gets back to reality and headbutts Rachel. And with that he is able to get free from her grasp, and Rachel gets a bloody nose from that strike. But she blows the blood out and asks if he is not going to come back quietly, though Shion has already ran away, as he gets worried about them sending Rachel to get him back. While running he again gets reminded of that memory as he starts to wonder who that person from his memory is. Now at the Dead Mansion the director is surprised to hear that Rachel lost Shion and asks her to explain. She apologizes to him and cuts back against other people to get into the changing room while telling the director that she let her guard down for a moment. But she reports to him that she found out the old woman who was controlling him with the principles, and that from what she observed, Sean was considering her to be his parent. The director thinks about how he is following words of a woman he recognizes as his parent and wonders if it's really possible. He asks Rachel if the woman is intentionally controlling him with the three principles, and Rachel replies that for that she needs more confirmation, but it does not seem that way as of now. Hearing all that, the director orders her to check out that woman first. And as Rachel is coming out of the changing room, the woman nags that she is the young person who cut her in line, though she gets confused upon seeing her come out as an old lady instead. The director explains that there are two ways to retrieve a good child from his parents. We switch scenes to Hyunyo's mom, who asks Rachel on what did she just say, and Rachel asks her to stay away from her son. She explains that since she is often away from home due to business trips, she is unable to pay much attention to him, and complains about Shion being forced in eating spicy food, which he doesn't even like, which really breaks her heart as a parent, as Hyunyo's mother gets sad upon realizing that Shion was forcing himself to eat spicy food. And the first method to retrieve a good child is to make the parent voluntarily give up the ownership, as Rachel tries to make Hyunyo's mom guilty for trying to act like Sean's parent. She then goes on to tell her that she knows Shion listens to her, but she also have to take responsibility as an adult. She then puts her hand onto her shoulder and tells her to tell Shion to go back to his home and never come back again whenever he comes next time, and from home Rachel means Dead Mansion, of course. Saying all that, Rachel tries to leave, but Hyunyo's mother tells her that she is not going to do that. It surprises Rachel as Hyunyo's mother questions her about her being away on business trips, which prompts Rachel to ask if she is going to nitpick about it. Haeunyo's mother asks Rachel if she ever looked at Sion's face properly or his clothes, and if she knows what kind of school life he is having. She tells Rachel how Sion's clothes are always dirty along with his face, and whenever she asks him about it, he tells her that he fell somewhere, which she thought was true, and that he was a boy who grew up like any other boy. Tears starts rolling down her face as she remembers Haeunyo saying the same thing, and she states that she cannot let Sion end up like him as well. As such, without realizing, she started to look after him, and that right now, he needs a parent to watch over him. He cannot end up like her Haeunyo. And if she is busy, she would watch over him herself, but Rachel gets angry and lashes at her, asking who does she think she is to watch over him, but Haeunyo's mother bows and tells her that she cannot comply with her request. Hearing all this, Rachel is left speechless and incredibly angry. Fast forward at night, she informs the director that the first method failed and that old woman was more stubborn than expected and insisted on her ownership. The director replies, it cannot be helped, and he wanted to resolve it quietly if possible. And such he orders Rachel to proceed with the second method, which she happily agrees with. Rachel starts removing her clothes while saying that she will do that, and the second way to retrieve a good child from their parent is, in the event of a parent's death, the good child is to return to dead mansion, and she tells the director to set the old woman as the target and she will take care of her. Next day at the supermarket, we see Haeunyo's mother shopping. Rachel is hiding behind her with a remote in her hand while thinking, how dare her she take Sean. She presses the button and the bomb goes off, creating an explosion at the market. People start to panic while wondering what is going on, and we see Rachel behind a net, targeting Haeunyo's mom. While aiming towards her, she says that she cannot become Sean's parents as she will not allow such thing to happen. But right when she shoots, it gets blocked by Sion with a cooking pan. And seeing him, she gets elated as well, while Sion is surprised when the pan blocks the bullet as he saw it in a game. He tells Rachel that he knew they would do this and questions their over-the-top methods of using bombs and weapons, though Rachel tells him to not interfere, as she will free him from that old woman, but Sion makes his move as well, stating that he cannot let that happen. He pushes the aisle on top of Rachel and she tries to avoid it by running, and takes cover in a corner. But Sion suddenly appears and kicks the weapon right out of her hand, while saying that he hopes he don't have to tell her about the third principle. Rachel pulls out a knife while saying that she wanted to take him unharmed if possible. She slashes right on his abdomen, and we see blood spilling from Sion as he asks, did she really wanted that? Though he does not plan to let her leave unharmed, as what she slashed was actually a can of ketchup. Sion throws it away and they both start fighting, with Rachel asking if he really thinks that he can take her down, and asks if he forget about her teaching that fighting should be a mean to an end, as Rachel knocks Sion down on a fallen aisle. She then tells Sean that she would give him a supplementary lesson and asks the purpose of their fight. Back to Haeunyo's mom, who is confused and wonders what is going on. Suddenly she looks over upon hearing the cries of a little kid. The little kid is crying for his mom and Haeunyo's mother goes over to him to console and check up on him. His eyes are filled with tears, and unknown to Haeunyo's mother the child is actually from Dead Mansion, as he starts picking up a knife behind his back. Back to Sion and Rachel. Sion wonders what does she mean by point, while Rachel attack him and he dodges by rolling over. He jumps back, but Rachel quickly catches up and tries to stab him, but he again dodges. Suddenly Sion realizes that they are planning, and Rachel confirms that there is indeed a plan to free him from that old woman. Sion realizes something and looks over while Rachel tells him to not be distracted in the middle of a fight. She gets a hit in on his cheek, scratching him. Sion falls back and realizes that taking on Rachel with bare hands is too much and picks up a food can. Sion throws the can towards Rachel, but she dodges while saying that as long as they take care of that old woman, he would be back under the Dead Mansion's command. Since in the end they are their products, and hearing which Sion gets a bit pissed. He throws a bag of flour towards Rachel while she is telling him to come back home with her. Rachel slashes the bag of flour, spilling it everywhere and creating a smoke screen. She realizes her mistake and suddenly she is attacked with a scissor from Sion, which cuts her hair and leaves a cut on her face. She turns around and slides to other side of Sion to dodge. Seeing his abilities, she gets excited while claiming that he is the Sean that she knew from the Dead Mansion. Both of their weapons get blocked by each other, and Rachel notes that he is not even budging. Sion suddenly appears in front of her. He puts his hand right between her waist and arm and throws her into a shopping cart. Rachel gets frustrated and Sion mocks her by saying that Dead Mansion is not a place where his family is waiting, as a family doesn't refer to each other as product. He then kicks her cart right into other carts, and locks it in place. And he starts to leave while making fun of her, that isn't she a more of a product than him right now? While Rachel tries to stop him by shouting out his name. Back to Hyunyeo's mother, Eugene is about to kill her as she is asking if his parents aren't around, but suddenly Shion comes out while calling her mother and asking if she is alright. She asks him that wasn't he supposed to be in class, and seeing her clothes questions if he got hurt again, while Eugene upon seeing his face gets sure that Shion is the legend of the dead mansion, Sean. Seeing him here, Eugene wonders if trainer Rachel got defeated, and Shion asks Hyunyeo's mother on who is this child, and she replies that he lost his mom and they should take care of him first. Shion gets down and asks him if he remembers his parents' number, and Eugene starts acting like a lost and afraid child. He tells Shion that he doesn't know, while thinking that taking on Shion would be a big risk, and decides to focus on his target instead. He tries to ignore Shion and goes straight for Hyunyeo's mom while asking her for help, and thinks to use her motherly instinct to get close to her. But Shion stops him and picks him up, while pretending to console him, telling him to not cry. Suddenly his expression changes as he asks Eugene if he hasn't learned that dumb-looking kids will be hated. Shion puts his finger to his head, shaping it like a weapon, and tells him to stay still, while Eugene gets scared thinking if it's a real weapon. Shion tells him that he needs to have a conversation with the director about this, and asks if Eugene still have the direct line to him since he lost his a long time ago. Eugene still tries to feign ignorance about it. Shion strikes him on his neck, making him drop his weapon while he says, "Look at the kid, holding such things." Hyunyeo's mother looks back asking if he heard something, and Shion hides the knife away pretending to not know anything, and she asks if the kid fell asleep, and Shion replies that he did, since he seemed to be quite tired. She tries to find his mother, and Shion says that the kid has a phone and he would try calling someone with it. Back at the dead mansion, the phone in director's room starts ringing and he complains and wonders who is calling him such early in the morning. He gets up and wears his cloak while saying that he has told them before to not call on the direct line. As he picks up the phone, Shion greets him, and hearing his voice the director gets excited. He realizes that it's Shion and asks on why is he calling on this number. Shion replies that he seems to have sent a huge present for him, and asks him if he really thought that he can catch him with just Rachel and some kid, and upon hearing that director is a bit surprised that they both lost. Noting his reaction, Shion says that his reaction is hurting his pride, and that no matter who or how many they send the result would be the same, they can keep trying if they want to. The director replies that he thought he would just run away and asks if he is planning to fight the dead mansion head on, and he replies, "Run, that's not even funny." Shion then recites the third principle of the dead mansion, and according to it, he would consider dead mansion a threat and break through the current situation. And upon hearing that, the director smiles and gets on his knees, and then starts praying to his God for blessing him with this present, which is more beautiful and pure than anything, as he sees Shion so faithful to the three principles. The director then tells him another way, which is to send Eugene back to them and they won't touch the old woman, and Shion tells him to tell Rachel to come herself after an hour. As the phone cuts, the director is in high heaven upon seeing Sean's devotion to the three principles and calls him pure and hopes to reunite with him soon, calling him his treasure. Shion wakes up Eugene and Eugene immediately starts looking for his knife, but Shion tells him to not bother looking for it as he already took it a long time ago. He gives Eugene food to eat, it since he probably have not eaten anything. Looking at it, Eugene has a disgusted reaction, saying who would eat such stuff. Though fast forward and he has already finished it all, and on the way, Shion asks him if it was good, and he replies, not really. But Shion makes fun of him, that despite saying that, he still ate everything. They finally arrive and met Rachel, who is standing on top a stairway. She angrily tells Eugene to come to her, and Eugene gets nervous. As Eugene is walking up, Shion tells him to take the food since he seemed to like it. But Rachel tells him that he sure seems relaxed, and tells Shion that she has not given up on him just yet, while saying that she will come visit him soon again, and Shion replies that he should have taken the food because at his age he should be eating a lot. Rachel tells Eugene that things would have been much easier if he would have taken care of that old woman, and Eugene tries to apologize. But Rachel tells Eugene that he would be disposed of soon, and that they should have gotten rid of useless kids a long time ago, and Eugene gets scared hearing that. Suddenly Shion comes back and calls out to Eugene. Shion asks him one last time if the food tasted good, and Eugene looks back at him in silence. And Eugene starts crying while saying that it was good indeed. Shion agrees with his opinion, stating that Hyunyeo's snack shop is a really good place, and says Then let's go back to Hyunyo's snack shop to Eugene. The ownership rights of the dead mansion's good children belongs to the buyers, the parents. However, in the event the parent dies, the ownership reverts back to the dead mansion. As such, an old lady comes and tells Eugene that she is going to be his new mother from now on. And hence the child is re-adopted and sent to a new family. Re-adopted and again sent to a new family. And a new family again. The director asks Eugene on how many times has it been already, and he simply replies that it's the 4th time, but the director tells him that it was a rhetorical question. And of course, they can continue to profit by repeatedly sending him to a new families, but he has failed to protect his parents 4 times already, making it the worst disgrace in the history of their dead mansion. And if this continues, they would have no choice but to dispose of him, and he asks Eugene if he knows what happens to those who are disposed of. He tells him to become useful and gives him another opportunity to help Rachel and go to Korea to retrieve Sean. And if he does not want to be disposed of, he has to prove his value. Back to the present, Rachel is telling Eugene that he will be disposed of, making Eugene think that he is useless. He starts thinking that he cannot let that happen and has to prove his worth, and such he asks Rachel for another chance. But Rachel simply looks at him with anger, and seeing her expression he simply apologizes, and Shion comes and calls out to Eugene. He asks Eugene about the meal, and seeing this, Rachel gives him another chance. She orders him to kill Sean's parents, that old woman. Knowing it's his last chance to prove his worth, Eugene starts his acting. Seeing which, Shion decides to take Eugene back, and Rachel thinks that Sean still perceives her as a threat, so the 3rd principle should still apply. She asks Shion that didn't they agreed on a deal that he would hand over Eugene to them and they won't touch the old woman in return. But Shion replies that the kid has already said he likes the food, and he is also a regular for some time now, so he cannot help it. Rachel replies, so that's how you are going to be, and sends off Eugene to him while whispering to him that it's his last chance. She tells Shion that the deal is off then and they will go after that woman again now. Shion grabs Eugene and tells Rachel to do as she pleases, while stating that he will simply best them again and again. And Eugene looks up to Shion and his determined face. Fast forward, and Shion complains and asks Eugene on why is he here. Hyunyo's mom asks, what does he mean why, and reminds Shion that he only said that he would take care of him for the day, but Shion is hesitant about coming to her house and she tells him that it's fine, since they both cannot cook for themselves and she won't be bored either, so it's good for her. She also finds it quite fascinating that the kid's mom is also a friend of Shion's mother, and Shion replies, I know, right, while thinking that in the end, they are both Rachel. She asks Shion to stay over at her house, but he replies that it's not necessary, but Eugene gets ready to stay over as he cannot miss this opportunity. She asks for Eugene's name and he replies, while Shion thinks that it's really too much, and realizes that it's his first time inside her house. He starts to look around and sees a room, and asks Hyunyo's mom if it's Hyunyo's room, to which she replies it is, and questions on why is he asking. Shion, being entranced by it, asks her if he could go in. Inside the room, he notes that it was just an ordinary room, the kind of room you'd see often in any drama or movie, with the usual everyday life, with normal dreams and efforts, with a normal happy family, those kind of things. And maybe because he longed for it so much that he does not get it, Hyunyo, who had the ordinary and normal family. He starts thinking that Hyunyo should be in this room, he could have been happy, spending ordinary and normal times. As he looks over his photo with his mom, he starts to realize that he should not have simply stood by. Back to Eugene, who has finished his meal and thanks her for it, note that this is his chance since Sean is gone, as he praises her food to get her attention. Eugene asks if he could ask her a few questions and she replies, sure, and Eugene asks if she has any other family besides her son, a husband for instance. Hyunyo's mother wonders how can she explain it and replies that he was needed in heaven, so she let him go. He questions if he became a family member over there and she replies, that's a lovely way to put it, but he then says that on the other hand her son could not become a part of a family anywhere, which she gets confused upon hearing. He continues on that a weak loser, a useless child cannot become anyone's family, and Hyunyo's mother asks him on what is he talking about. Eugene replies, a family is where you constantly prove your worth and show your valuable presence. If you don't, you are just a hindrance that consumes resources, and upon hearing his reply, Hyunyo's mom stands up and denies his view, and tells him that it's not how a family is, which leaves Eugene speechless as he asks then what is it? Just as she is about to answer, Shion comes and picks up Eugene and quickly takes him away, asking if they could sleep in the living room. She suggests him to sleep in Hyunyo's room, but Shion decides to use the sofa instead as it's good enough for him, while telling Eugene to sleep on the floor, which he denies to. Now fast forward at night, Eugene is surprised that Shion really made him sleep on the floor. He gets up and sees the door open with lights turned on. He goes on to check it, and finds Hyunyo's mom, and while he looks at her sleeping, he calls her a quite strange person. As she calls such a useless kid her family, and even makes that kind of face to a stranger like himself. Even when he has not proven anything, while remembering the director's words, and then remembers what she told him about a family and wonders what is a family. Eugene pulls out a weapon while saying that he needs to prove himself, though this time he is hesitant. He tries to convince himself that he needs to become a family member that someone needs, but suddenly the door closes right in front of him. And we see it's Shion who did it. As he asks Eugene if this was the decision he took in the end. Eugene replies that he is simply fulfilling his mission, and aims the weapon towards Shion while telling him to not resist. But Shion gives off no reaction, and Eugene notices the bullets missing, and Shion asks if he got that weapon from Rachel earlier. But he entered its magazine while Eugene was sleeping, and that he is being quite lax since 15 rounds of 9mm parabellum bullets would be 112.5 G. He should have noticed that the magazine was empty when he held the weapon while calling him an amateur. Eugene pulls out a knife to attack and Shion blocks it. He grabs his hand and pins him on the door, but Eugene uses this opportunity to open the door. As the door opens, Eugene rushes towards Hyunyo's mom. He turns around to Shion as Hyunyo's mom is still sleeping. Shion tells him to be quiet and calm down first. But Eugene looks over and rushes off to attack her regardless. Shion then uses a tie to grab Eugene by the leg and he falls down. But Eugene cuts it off using his knife. As he stares at Shion, Shion claims that he got quite a scary look to him. Eugene uses the nearby bed and jumps towards Shion and attacks him. But Shion simply uses his tie to change his momentum, and Eugene asks if he is going easy on him. And he tells Shion to fight him properly, and Shion replies, sure, why not? Eugene then throws the weapon towards Hyunyo's mom, but Shion knocks it down mid-air. He then kicks his legs to make him fall down, but catches him by shirt as to not make any noise. Shion tells him to get up, as they have not even started yet, and Eugene realizes the difference between him and the legend of the dead mansion, while Shion calls Eugene's attack too obvious. Suddenly he gets hit on his head by Hyunyo's mother, who asks what are they doing and if they are fighting. Shion replies it's nothing like that, though Hyunyo's mom doesn't buy it. Looking at it, Eugene thinks there is an opening, but Shion looks back at him and says it's enough. Shion tells her that it's just morning workout, and Eugene spins his knife, calling it a trick, and realizes that he cannot win. He loses the confidence to kill her in front of Sean as she again asks Shion if he is not bothering him, and he replies that he was simply playing with him, with Eugene noting that a head-on confrontation is impossible. She tells Eugene as well to not make fun of his brother too much between family, which surprises him. Realizing that she called him a family again, and he asks her if he is also a part of this family now, she replies that he is, since they eat and sleep under the same roof, making them no different than her family. And she gently starts to pat his forehead, and Shion watches over. Suddenly someone knocks on the front door and asks if anyone is home. Hyunyo's mother goes on to check and asks who are you upon seeing an unknown girl. She greets her and apologizes for coming in so early in the morning, and introduces herself as Eugene's sister, Mary. She thanks her for taking care of Eugene last night, and Shion comes around and asks who is it, and Hyunyo's mother informs him that she is Eugene's sister who has came to pick him up. Shion does know the real identity and goes out to ask her on why did she came here, and she replies it's to pick up Eugene, of course. In return for Eugene, they guarantee his mother's safety, which was their promise. Shion asks on who was it that ordered a kid to kill, and Mary replies to not worry about it as that was Rachel's arbitrary order and he caught him anyways. Hearing all that, Shion asks her if she could first get rid of her knife. Mary is a bit surprised that he noticed it already and tells him that nothing will happen as long as he cooperate. But Shion makes fun of her by acting scared while saying that he wonders what would happen if he does not cooperate. Suddenly Eugene arrives, acting excited upon seeing his sister, and hugs her while Shion calls them quite close, and Hyunyo's mother agrees with him. Mary whispers to Eugene that he has failed and the director will be greatly disappointed by this. And this he might be discarded for real this time, and behind them Hyunyo's mother comments about both of them having pretty name. Shion calls out to Eugene, and Eugene asks Mary on what is she saying after ruining his plan, and she questions, "What plan?" He replies that since he is an amateur, he was looking for an opportunity to win over this family. She asks if he is making excuses, and he tells her to not be absurd since this mission isn't simple. As he looks over the Sean while telling Mary that the legend of the dead mansion, Sean is guarding her. And even though he is ugly, stupid, and his face is similar to a monkey, but he has fought him head-on and is extremely strong, and Mary agrees with his opinion, especially about his face, which pisses Sean off. She apologizes to Eugene about ruining his mission and admits her fault, but she tells him to not worry as they have another mission lined up for him and asks him to withdraw with her. Eugene agrees to do so and they start to leave. Mary says her goodbye to Sean and Eugene tries to hurry up and leave. We see him looking a bit sad and disappointed, and suddenly Hyunyo's mom calls out to him. She asks him to come again another time, she would make him food again. Eugene doesn't reply anything and simply turns around and smiles. And says he will, and Hyunyo's mom also tells Seon that if he brings him over next time, she would make something delicious as well. And Seon replies that he would make sure to bring him over again. Now at school, the principal tells Hyunyo's mother that he is sorry for breaking the news to her like this, and that they were going to discuss the perpetrators and their punishments with the school violence committee, so it was a bit delayed. The perpetrators' parents promised to give compensation, and all of them will be suspended. He opens up a file with their images and asks if she would like to see it, and she gets shocked upon seeing it. She asks him why this picture is here, and principal gets confused and asks what does she mean. We see it's a picture of Seon, and she asks him on why is Seon's picture here. Now at the dead mansion, the director asks Rachel on how did it happen. She apologizes to the director as she was the one to order Eugene to kill the old woman, and calls him a useless child since he failed and is unable to carry out even a single order properly. But the director says this isn't what it's about, and Rachel is confused. The director replies that he told her to retrieve Eugene and leave the old woman alone. And despite that, she ordered Eugene to kill the old woman and asks if she is not the one who is failing to comply with his orders. She argues that it was for the retrieval of Sean, but the director replies that he places great importance on promises, regardless of who it was made to. As before God, there should only be faith and trust, everything else is heresy. But since the children's lack faith, he had to create 3 principles to create a controlling a measure. As such, he asked Rachel to remember the consequences of uncontrolled and unexpected events from the past. Orders, principles, these are the 3 principles of the dead mansion, to which Rachel says, Amen. She asks if they're going to give up on retrieval of Sean then, but he replies that she does not need to worry about that, as there are plenty of ways to do that without touching the old woman. And Mary is already on that operation. Now as Seon walks into the classroom, he notices the atmosphere being different than before. He asks one of the students on why is everyone acting weird, and if it's due to some exam, but the guy doesn't answer, which annoys Seon. Suddenly some guys asks him if this is for real while staring at their phone, and Seon asks them what is it about, and they show him a photo of him bullying Joseph. Looking at it, Seon realizes that it's a low-quality photoshopped image, and asks them where did they got it from. But they all don't answer and simply stare at each other. Suddenly they apologize to him for being wrong all this time about the fact that it was really him who beat up Joseph and had him act as his underling, and Seon is taken back upon hearing that. They inform him that the rumors has already spread throughout the whole school that even Joseph is scared of him, while Seon wonders if they all really believe these stuff. They show him another photo of him chilling with gangsters, with Seon in shock saying that this one is going way too far. Also one more rumor about him ordering Joseph to take care of Hyunyo, and Seon gets nervous upon hearing that. He tries to clear himself up by telling everyone that he did not do anything, but no one is believing him. The other bullies calls him really cool for all that, as they try to get close to him while pushing away one of the students, who tries to retaliate, but the bully gets angry at him. He tries to hit him, but Seon intervenes and stops him, and distracts them by hesitantly accepting about the incident and leads them outside on the pretense of telling them what actually happened. As while walking outside with them, both Seon and the student stare at each other with nervousness. Seon asks them if they smoke while telling that he doesn't, as the guy asks why did he even ask then. The students comments that they didn't knew that Seon was like that, and calls him birds of the same feather. Outside the guys have explained everything to him. The photo was sent in group chat early in the morning and the person who shared it left after saying only a few words. He wonders if this is the dead mansion's doing and tries to think of their purpose for doing so. Shion gets up and starts making a cover-up story that he wanted to live a quiet school life here but got exposed again and wonders if any other school will even accept him now. He tells them that he wants to graduate quietly from here and that he doesn't want to get caught in pranks made by kids like this. And the ones he should be dealing with are not kids, as he is already living in the world of adults. He tells them to make it sure this matter doesn't spread any further, and he is asking them quietly to take care of it as his crew members. Hearing him call them his crew members, they all get happy and excited and gets ready to follow his orders. And in the back we see Hyunyo's mom catches Shion with the bullies. Going back in time a bit, she tries to argue with the principal that Shion's photo here must be a misunderstanding as he is Hyunyo's friend, but the principal shows her another photo, and that he is already famous among the children, and he also has testimony that he hung out with a friend named Joseph. And though he is hesitant, he still tells her that he thinks Shion is the ringleader. She is still in disbelief, and the principal adds that since his parents are also hard to contact, this is perhaps the reason he lacks proper home education. And based on his experience, kids like him are bound to get in trouble more easily, and hence he advises her to not trust Shion too much. Now back to Shion, he wonders if what he did will help calm down the rumors a bit as they all seemed more naive than he thought. Suddenly he detects Mary hiding around the corner and calls her out, which surprises her. She comes out of the hiding saying that she thought she was well hidden. Shion advises her that she should have gotten rid of her coffee scent first if she wanted to hide properly, which is the same as she had in front of Hyunyo's house. Seeing how he managed to catch her smell so fast, she teases him by saying she is getting uncomfortable from it. He asks her on what does she want and why is she causing trouble and making things complicated, but she replies he seems to be enjoying it a lot despite it being trouble. While mocking him about his previous dialogue about him dealing with adults and not kids. Shion is left speechless and is a bit embarrassed about it. She then asks him how does he feel when she made him the popular bully of the school. He replies that it wasn't enjoying at all, since he was already popular to begin with. She asks it's not about that, it's about the cold and harsh gazes of the children's, and the looks of contempt filled with betrayal. While again asking if he liked it or not. He realizes that she is talking about the picture and asks if she made it, and she asks how was it, and if wasn't it well made, but he replies that he was amazed by how bad it was, and with something like that, it would barely deceive normal people. She replies that it might be crude, since she did not have much time and resources, but Shion makes fun of her by calling it all excuses. She gets pissed and suddenly uses a hidden weapon and attacks Shion with it, but he blocks it with his own bag. He hides behind a wall, while asking if she is crazy, as both she and Rachel always pulls out a weapon wherever they go, and didn't they told him that they would bring him back? And what would happen if he die? And she replies that it's a joke since the real Sean would dodge it, she knows that much, and anyways it would be better for her if she kills him right here. She suddenly stops attacking and drops her bag, which Shion notices. As she walks close to the corner, Shion grabs her weapon. But she doesn't let it go, and Shion slams her in the wall with it, and blocks when she tries to knee him. She pulls out a mini knife with her other hand and tries to attack with it. But Shion dodges it and asks if that's really all she got, as he mocks Dead Mansion, calling it actually dead. He pins her on the ground and asks her, she didn't expect something like that, did she? She starts to chuckle and replies, she of course did not. Suddenly Shion hears Hyunyo's mom calls him out, asking him on what is he doing. In shock, she starts to tell him that he is not supposed to do that, as he is supposed to be Hyunyo's friend. And starts to doubt and questions him if he really did all that to her Hyunyo.